Marvel's Loki premiere presents the first gender-fluid character. Welcome back to Starstruck Mini, guys. The god of mischief, Loki, is back. Except, it's not like Loki we will see when his self-titled TV show premieres on Disney+. Tom Hiddleston, who plays the role of original Loki ever since 2011's Thor, died at Thanos' hand in Infinity War, putting an end to nearly a decade's worth of character development. This time, Loki is from another timeline, and the show picks up with him after the Endgame-influenced events of Avengers. This time, Loki, still more of a villain than an anti-hero, will contend with the Time Variance Authority, protecting the proper flow of time. Of course, there's plenty of time travel within the series, but playing an older version of Loki was a throwback for Hiddleston as well. Before we begin with the video, stay tuned and subscribe to our channel for more uploads like this. Let's begin. Hiddleston says that it was like time travel in itself to unstitch some of the evolution that Loki has progressed through and go back to where he was in the first Avengers film. It is necessary to him, and he was making sure it was clear that the Loki they see in that first episode is the Avengers Loki. He's not the Loki that we guys have seen before. This means that instead of helping Thor, only to fake his death in the Dark World, deciding to ultimately do the honorable thing and come to his people's rescue in Thor Ragnarok, and going out a hero by trying to take out Thanos before his death in Infinity War, the Loki in Loki is still a would-be tyrant coming off of a devastating defeat. The upswing? He will have 6 hours worth of all-new escapades to create a new path. It's like a fork in the road. Rather than taking that particular avenue, he takes another one. The most thrilling part here was being able to take him back to that starting point and take him on a new journey with almost new revelations, new curiosity, and discoveries. Loki's gender-fluid identity is one of the new revelations in the series. In the comics, Loki has always been a shapeshifter, but in the mid-2010s, various arcs canonized that Loki is truly gender-fluid. The show will do something similar for the MCU's version. It's always been there in the history of the character, in the comics and the mythology, so it's a thrill that the series crew gets to touch on that in some way. They want the audience to find out how they do. Loki also marks the first time we will be spending any length of time with the god of mischief without the god of thunder being nearby. Chris Hemsworth's Thor doesn't appear in the series as Thor, still occupies an essential part of Loki's mind. They all carry those closest to them, and those closest to them, though Loki offers a whole cast of new characters for Loki to bounce off. In addition to finding himself surrounded by unfamiliar company, Loki is also in an unfamiliar place. Though the series bops around various historical and futuristic events, the bulk of the action in the early episodes takes place in the headquarters of the TVA, and despite being full of references to groundbreaking sci-fi titles like Metropolis, Brazil, Blade Runner, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the TVA is quite a lot blander than you'd have expected, and certainly more buttoned up than the god of mischief's usual haunts. The nature of the TVA's work is secondary to its being the ultimate bureaucracy. This, Heron says, is by design. Heron says that even with the technology within the TVA, he was inspired to feel quite retro-futuristic and maybe not look so updated because he had worked in many offices before he was a filmmaker and some of the technology was sort of archaic. He further explained why the TVA's office aesthetic looks like they thought the future might be back in the 60s. There's one other primary thing that's new for Loki in the show, one that's perhaps easy to overlook because it's so obvious. Loki is indeed the star of his very own show. Rather than be the antagonist or supporting player, Loki is the hero. Well, maybe hero is the wrong word for this version of Loki, at least for now, but he's the primary character. It's not always easy for a character to make the jump to the protagonist without sanding down the rough edges that made them such an engaging foe or supporting player. However, Hiddleston, who has played Loki for a decade now, is up to the challenge. It was essential for the director to retain the integrity of the character. They were all aware that we can't jettison all the things that make Loki Loki, even if he were the protagonist. Seeing his perspective more often was interesting. Loki's in the driver's seat of the story, and I hope the audience is seeing things through Loki's eyes. Loki's journey is a difficult one. So that's all with the video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Until the next, stay tuned and subscribe to our channel for more.